What happens when a billion-dollar deal hangs in the balance? Cultural barriers threaten to destroy years of negotiation, and the only person who can save the day is the one everyone has overlooked for decades. It's 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in downtown Chicago. The glass conference room on the 47th floor of Morrison Industries is filled with nervous energy. Japanese executives from Yamamoto Corporation have flown 6,000 miles to finalize a partnership that could revolutionize renewable energy technology. The stakes couldn't be higher. This deal represents the future of both companies and potentially millions of jobs. But there's a problem. The professional translator who was supposed to facilitate this crucial meeting has just called in sick. The backup translator is stuck in traffic due to a massive accident on the expressway. And the third option? Book solid for the next 6 hours. CEO Richard Morrison is beginning to panic. His hands shake as he realizes that years of careful relationship building with his Japanese partners might crumble in the next few minutes. The cultural nuances, the business etiquette, the precise language needed to convey respect and understanding. Without proper translation, this meeting could become a disaster. That's when Samuel Washington, a 58-year-old black man who has been cleaning these offices for 12 years, quietly steps forward. "Excuse me, Mr. Morrison," he says in perfect Japanese, "but I believe I can help." The room falls silent. Everyone stares at the man they've seen pushing a mop cart down these halls for over a decade, the man they've barely acknowledged except for polite nods and brief thank yous. The man who, unbeknownst to them, holds advanced degrees in international business and linguistics, speaks 5 languages fluently, and has been watching their cultural missteps for years. This is the story of how prejudice blinds us to brilliance, how assumptions can cost us everything, and how one man's quiet dignity became the key to unlocking not just a business deal, but a fundamental truth about the talent we overlook every single day. Samuel Washington was born in 1965 in Detroit, Michigan, during the height of the Civil Rights Movement. His father, James Washington, worked the night shift at a Ford assembly plant, while his mother, Dorothy, cleaned office buildings downtown during the day. The Washington family understood the value of education and hard work, but they also understood the harsh realities of being black in America. From an early age, Samuel displayed an extraordinary aptitude for languages, while other children struggled. With basic grammar, Samuel was absorbing Spanish from his neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez, picking up Italian phrases from the local deli owner, and teaching himself French from library books. His parents, recognizing his gift, scraped together money for language tutoring and encouraged his passion, despite their limited resources. The historical context of Samuel's youth was crucial to understanding his later struggles. The 1970s and 1980s saw significant changes in American society, but workplace discrimination against black professionals remained deeply entrenched. Research shows that black professionals must employ numerous coping strategies to deal with workplace racism, including what scholars call code switching, adjusting their speech, appearance, and behavior to make white colleagues comfortable. Samuel excelled academically, earning a full scholarship to Northwestern University, where he studied international business and linguistics. He graduated summa cum laude in 1987, fluent in Japanese, Mandarin, Spanish, French, and German. His professors praised his cultural sensitivity and his ability to navigate complex international business relationships. He seemed destined for success in the global marketplace. But the corporate world of the late 1980s wasn't ready for a young black man with international expertise. Despite his qualifications, Samuel faced the same barriers that had blocked black professionals for generations. Hiring managers questioned his cultural fit. Recruiters expressed concerns about his ability to relate to international clients. The subtle racism was pervasive and devastating. Samuel's first job was with a small import-export company where he was hired as a cultural liaison, a position that paid significantly less than the international business analyst roles he was qualified for. Despite his success in facilitating deals and building relationships with Asian partners, he was consistently passed over for promotions. His supervisors took credit for his work, and his insights were attributed to intuition rather than expertise. The psychological toll of this discrimination was immense. Like many black professionals, Samuel experienced what researchers call racial code switching, the exhausting process of constantly adjusting behavior to navigate workplace racism. He learned to speak differently in meetings, to dress more conservatively, and to carefully modulate his opinions to avoid being labeled as aggressive or uppity. After several years of frustration and limited advancement, Samuel made a difficult decision. In 1995, when his wife was pregnant with their second child and they needed steady income with good benefits, he took a job as a janitor at Morrison Industries. The pay was decent, the hours were flexible, and most importantly, it was stable. He told himself it was temporary, just until he could find something better. But temporary became permanent as the demands of family life and the realities of workplace discrimination made it increasingly difficult to transition back to professional work. Samuel's wife, Maria, worked as a nurse, and together they provided a comfortable life for their 2 children. He buried his dreams of international business success and focused on being a good father and provider. The irony of Samuel's situation was crushing. Morrison Industries regularly struggled with international partnerships, particularly with Asian companies. The company lost deals due to cultural misunderstandings, hired expensive consultants to navigate business relationships, and frequently complained about the challenges of global commerce. Meanwhile, the man who could have solved these problems was emptying their trash cans and cleaning their windows. Samuel's coping mechanisms during this period reflected the resilient strategies that black professionals have developed over generations. He maintained his language skills by listening to international news broadcasts, reading foreign newspapers online, and having conversations with his diverse neighbors. He found purpose in his work, taking pride in maintaining a clean and professional environment for the people he served. The research on black workers' experiences reveals the broader context of Samuel's situation. Studies show that black employees are often invisible in corporate settings, their contributions overlooked, and their potential dismissed. They face what researchers call the paradox of invisibility and hypervisibility, ignored when they have something to contribute, but scrutinized when they step outside expected roles. For 12 years, Samuel watched Morrison Industries struggle with international partnerships. He observed cultural missteps, witnessed failed negotiations, and saw millions of dollars lost due to misunderstandings that proper cultural knowledge could have prevented. But he remained silent, invisible, just another service worker in a world that didn't see his true value. The morning of February 14, 2023, began like any other for Samuel Washington. He arrived at Morrison Industries at 5:30 a.m., 2 hours before the office staff, to begin his cleaning rounds. As he worked his way through the executive floors, he noticed unusual activity, international phone calls, urgent emails, and a palpable sense of nervous energy among the early arriving staff. Morrison Industries had been courting Yamamoto Corporation for 3 years, hoping to secure a partnership that would bring their renewable energy technology to the massive Japanese market. The deal was worth $2.8 billion over 5 years and could establish Morrison as a leader in sustainable technology. Today was the day when Yamamoto's executive team would finalize the partnership agreement. Samuel had been quietly observing the preparation for weeks. He had seen the cultural training sessions that the Morrison executives had attended, wincing at the oversimplified explanations of Japanese business culture. He had watched them practice their bows, heard them mispronounce crucial terms, and observed their fundamental misunderstanding of the nuanced relationship building that Japanese business requires. The Japanese delegation arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. Led by Yamamoto Corporation's CEO, Hiroshi Yamamoto, along with his senior executives. Samuel watched from the maintenance corridor as they were escorted to the 47th floor conference room. The Morrison team was already assembled, led by CEO Richard Morrison, a 52-year-old businessman who had built his company through aggressive expansion and bold technological innovations. At 9:30 a.m., the meeting was scheduled to begin. Samuel was cleaning the adjacent hallway when he heard Richard Morrison's voice rising in panic. "What do you mean he's not coming? This is the most important meeting of our company's history." Linda Chun, Morrison's assistant, was frantically making phone calls. "The translator has food poisoning. He's been vomiting all night. The backup translator is stuck in a massive traffic jam on I-94, and the third option is already booked with another client until 4 p.m. Samuel paused his cleaning to listen. Through the glass partition, he could see the Japanese executives waiting patiently, their faces professionally composed, but their body language suggesting growing concern. In Japanese business culture, punctuality and proper preparation are fundamental signs of respect. The delay was already creating a negative impression. Morrison was sweating profusely, his usual confidence replaced by visible anxiety. "Can't we just use Google Translate or something? How hard can it be?" This comment revealed his complete misunderstanding of the cultural nuances involved in international business negotiations. "Mr. Morrison," Linda replied, "this isn't just about translation. We need someone who understands Japanese business culture, the proper honorifics, the subtle ways of showing respect. One wrong phrase could kill this deal." Samuel knew she was right. Japanese business negotiations involve layers of cultural meaning that extend far beyond literal translation. The way questions are asked, the timing of responses, the level of formality, all of these elements communicate respect and understanding. A simple translation app couldn't capture these nuances. As the minutes ticked by, Samuel watched the Japanese executives begin to exchange glances. He could see their growing concern, not just about the delay, but about Morrison Industries' apparent lack of preparation. In Japanese business culture, this kind of oversight suggested a lack of seriousness about the partnership. Finally, at 9:47 a.m., Samuel made a decision that would change everything. He had spent 12 years being invisible, watching these executives make cultural mistakes and miss opportunities. He had remained silent while his expertise could have helped, constrained by a system that saw him only as a service worker. But today, with so much at stake, he couldn't stay silent any longer. Samuel straightened his maintenance uniform, took a deep breath, and approached the conference room. The conversation inside had grown increasingly desperate. Morrison was on the phone with his legal team, trying to figure out if they could postpone the meeting without insulting their Japanese partners. "Excuse me, Mr. Morrison," Samuel said quietly, his voice carrying the authority of someone who understood the gravity of the situation. "But I believe I can help." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Samuel, who had been virtually invisible to them for over a decade. Morrison's face showed a mixture of confusion and desperation. "Samuel, this isn't really the time for— I speak Japanese fluently." Samuel interrupted, his voice calm and confident. "I also have advanced degrees in international business and linguistics. I understand Japanese business culture and protocol. I can facilitate this meeting." The silence that followed was deafening. Morrison stared at Samuel as if seeing him for the first time. The other executives exchanged glances, their faces showing a mixture of surprise, skepticism, and embarrassment. How could their janitor, a man they had barely acknowledged for 12 years, possess the exact expertise they desperately needed? You speak Japanese? Morrison asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Hai moshiwe gozaimasen ga watashi. Wa nihongo o hanasu koto ga dekamasu. Samuel replied in perfect Japanese, his pronunciation flawless and his tone appropriately respectful. The transformation in the room was immediate. Through the glass partition, Samuel could see the Japanese executives' faces change from concern to interest. They had heard him speak their language with proper respect and formality, but the Morrison team's reaction was more complex. Their faces showed shock, confusion, and perhaps most tellingly, a sense of betrayal. How could someone they had categorized as just a janitor possess such sophisticated skills? Their worldview was being challenged in real time. Samuel, Morrison said slowly, you're telling me you've been cleaning our offices for 12 years. And you speak Japanese and have business degrees? Yes, sir. I graduated summa cum laude from Northwestern University in 1987 with degrees in international business and linguistics. I'm fluent in Japanese, Mandarin, Spanish, French, and German. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Linda Chun looked mortified, realizing that they had been paying expensive consultants for cultural advice, while the expertise they needed was emptying their trash cans. The other executives struggled to process this revelation. Why didn't you ever tell us? Morrison asked, his voice carrying a note of accusation. Samuel's response was dignified but pointed. With respect, Mr. Morrison, when would I have told you? In 12 years, you've never had a conversation with me beyond good morning and thank you. I've been here every day, watching you struggle with international partnerships, but no one ever asked about my background or qualifications. The truth of his statement hung in the air like a challenge. The executives realized they had never seen Samuel as anything more than a service worker, never considered that he might have valuable skills or insights to offer. Meanwhile, time was running out. The Japanese executives were waiting, and their patience was wearing thin. Morrison faced a choice: swallow his pride and accept help from the man he had overlooked for 12 years, or risk losing the most important deal in his company's history. Next few minutes in that conference room revealed the complex dynamics of racial bias, class assumptions, and the courage required to challenge systemic discrimination. Samuel's offer to help had exposed not just a practical solution, but a fundamental flaw in how the company operated and how American workplaces systematically overlooked talent based on race and class. Morrison's first instinct was denial and deflection. Samuel, I appreciate the offer, but this is a complex business negotiation. We need someone with professional experience, not just language skills. His words revealed the deep-seated assumption that Samuel's expertise couldn't be legitimate, that somehow his race and current position invalidated his qualifications. Samuel's response was measured but firm. Mr. Morrison, I've been listening to your international negotiations for 12 years. I've watched you lose deals with Korean partners because you didn't understand their gift-giving protocols. I've seen you offend German clients by being too casual in your approach. I've observed your struggles with Chinese business culture and your confusion about Japanese decision-making processes. My professional experience includes watching you make these mistakes and knowing how to avoid them. The psychological toll of this moment on Samuel was immense. Research shows that when Black professionals assert their expertise, they often face what scholars call competence questioning, the systematic doubt of their qualifications that white professionals rarely experience. Samuel had to overcome not just Morrison's immediate skepticism, but 12 years of being invisible and undervalued. Linda Chun, perhaps recognizing the absurdity of the situation, spoke up. Mr. Morrison, we're running out of time. The Japanese. Executives are getting restless, and we don't have any other options. If Samuel can help us, shouldn't we let him try? But Morrison's resistance went deeper than practical concerns. He was experiencing what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, the discomfort that comes from having contradictory beliefs. He couldn't reconcile his mental image of Samuel as just a janitor with the reality of his qualifications and expertise. Samuel understood the dynamics at play. He had spent years studying not just languages and international business, but the subtle ways that racism operates in corporate environments. He knew that his competence would be questioned more rigorously than any white consultants would be. He also knew that if he failed, the consequences would be far more severe than if a white translator had failed. The pressure was building from multiple directions. Through the glass partition, Samuel could see Mr. Yamamoto checking his watch and speaking quietly with his colleagues. In Japanese business culture, this kind of delay was not just inconvenient, it was disrespectful. The relationship that Morrison Industries had spent 3 years building was beginning to deteriorate. "Mr. Morrison," Samuel said, his voice carrying the authority of someone who understood the cultural implications. "In Japanese business culture, what's happening right now is deeply insulting to your guests. Every minute we delay sends a message that you don't value this partnership. If you want to save this deal, you need to make a decision now." The other executives in the room began to shift uncomfortably. They could see the Japanese delegation's growing concern, and they understood that Morrison's hesitation was costing them precious time. But they also struggled with the same cognitive dissonance that Morrison faced. Samuel's decision to persist, despite the resistance, reflected the resilient strategies that black professionals have developed over generations. He drew on what researchers call armoring, the psychological protection that comes from knowing one's worth despite others' doubts. He also relied on his deep understanding of the stakes involved, not just for the company, but for his own future. "Look," Morrison said, his voice tight with frustration, "even if you can speak Japanese, do you understand the technical aspects of our renewable energy technology? Can you explain complex engineering concepts and financial projections?" Samuel's response revealed the depth of his knowledge. "I've been cleaning your offices for 12 years. Mr. Morrison, I've read every technical report, every financial projection, every market analysis you've left on your desk. I understand your technology better than most of your consultants do. I know what Yamamoto Corporation is looking for, and I know how to present your company's capabilities in a way that respects their cultural expectations." This revelation was perhaps the most shocking of all. Not only did Samuel possess the language and cultural skills they needed, but he had also been quietly absorbing their business intelligence for over a decade. The executives realized that they had been sharing sensitive information in front of someone they had never considered might understand or remember it. The resistance Samuel faced also reflected broader patterns of workplace discrimination. Studies show that black workers' suggestions are often dismissed initially, only to be accepted later when proposed by white colleagues. Samuel was experiencing this phenomenon in real time, watching as his offer of help was scrutinized and questioned in ways that a white translator's qualifications never would have been. But Samuel also had allies in the room. Linda Chun, who had worked closely with international partners, understood the cultural implications of the delay. She could see that Morrison's hesitation was not just potentially costly, but actively harmful to the company's reputation. "Mr. Morrison," she said quietly, "we need to trust Samuel. We don't have any other choice, and honestly, he seems to know more about this situation than any of us realized." A moment of truth had arrived. Morrison looked at Samuel, then at the Japanese executives waiting patiently in the conference room, then back at Samuel. The weight of the decision was crushing, not just the financial implications, but the psychological challenge of admitting that he had overlooked talent for over a decade. Samuel stood quietly, his posture dignified, but not confrontational. He understood that he was asking Morrison to confront not just a practical problem, but a fundamental assumption about worth and competence. He was asking to be seen not as a janitor who happened to speak Japanese, but as a qualified professional who had been systematically undervalued. The clock on the wall showed 9:52 a.m. 5 precious minutes had already been lost, and the Japanese executives were beginning to show signs of serious concern. Morrison's next words would determine not just the fate of the business deal, but the trajectory of Samuel's life. At 9:53 a.m., Richard Morrison made the decision that would change everything. Looking at Samuel with a mixture of desperation and dawning respect, he said, "All right, Samuel, you're right. We need your help. But I need you to understand, if this goes wrong, if we lose this deal because of cultural misunderstandings, the consequences will be severe." Samuel nodded calmly. "I understand, Mr. Morrison, but if we don't act now, you'll lose the deal anyway. Mr. Yamamoto is already concerned about your company's professionalism. Every additional minute we wait makes the situation worse." With that, Samuel straightened his maintenance uniform one final time and walked into the conference room. The Japanese executives looked up with polite curiosity as this unexpected figure entered their high-stakes business meeting. What happened next would be remembered as one of the most remarkable moments in Morrison Industries history. Samuel approached the Japanese delegation and bowed deeply, not the superficial nod that American businessmen often mistook for Japanese etiquette, but a proper bow that conveyed both respect and understanding of hierarchy. When he spoke, his Japanese was flawless, carrying the appropriate level of formality and respect. "Yamamoto-san, shinsetsu na go ramen wo itadaki, makoto enai arigato gozaimasu. Watashi wa Morrison Industries no Samuel Washington to moshimasu. Hanyasha no deyu to shite, kanichi no keigi wo shinko sasit itadakataku zanjamasu. Mazu hajimi enai, kono yu na okarashimi wo shite shimata koto wo kokoro kara, awabi moshiagamasu." The transformation in the room was immediate and profound. Mr. Yamamoto's face lit up with genuine surprise and appreciation. Not only was Samuel speaking perfect Japanese, but he was using the exact level of formality and respect that the situation demanded. He had begun with a proper apology for the delay, acknowledging the cultural significance of punctuality in Japanese business culture. "Washington-san," Mr. Yamamoto replied in Japanese, his voice carrying warmth and respect, "your Japanese is excellent. We are honored to meet you. Please, let us begin." For the next 3 hours, Samuel facilitated what would later be described as the most successful international negotiation in Morrison Industries history. But his role went far beyond simple translation. He navigated complex cultural nuances, helped both sides understand each other's perspectives, and bridged gaps that had taken months to develop. When Morrison Industries' financial projections were presented, Samuel didn't just translate the numbers. He explained them in the context of Japanese business expectations. When the Japanese executives expressed concerns about long-term commitment, Samuel helped Morrison understand that they weren't questioning the deal's profitability, but rather seeking assurance about the relationship's stability. The most critical moment came when Mr. Yamamoto asked a question that would have derailed the entire negotiation if handled incorrectly. In Japanese business culture, certain questions are tests of respect and understanding, not requests for information. Samuel recognized this immediately and guided Morrison's response to show proper cultural sensitivity. "Morrison-san," Samuel translated, "Mr. Yamamoto is asking about our company's commitment to long-term partnership values. This isn't a question about contracts or finances. He's asking whether we understand that Japanese business relationships are built on mutual respect and shared vision, not just profit. Morrison, following Samuel's guidance, responded with exactly the right tone and content. He spoke about Morrison Industries' commitment to sustainable technology, their respect for Japanese innovation, and their desire to build a partnership that would benefit both companies for generations. The Japanese executives exchanged glances of approval. Samuel had not only facilitated communication, but had helped Morrison understand the deeper cultural values at stake. The deal wasn't just about renewable energy technology. It was about building a relationship based on mutual respect and shared vision. As the meeting progressed, Samuel's expertise became increasingly apparent. He knew not just the language, but the subtle rhythms of Japanese business culture. He understood when to speak, when to remain silent, and how to help both sides save face when misunderstandings arose. The turning point came when Mr. Yamamoto asked to speak with Samuel privately. This request surprised everyone in the room, but Samuel understood its significance. In Japanese business culture, this was a sign of deep respect and trust. During their private conversation, conducted entirely in Japanese, Mr. Yamamoto expressed his admiration for Samuel's cultural knowledge and linguistic skills. "Washington-san," he said, "in 30 years of international business, I have rarely met someone who understands our culture so deeply. Your company is fortunate to have someone of your caliber." When they returned to the larger group, Mr. Yamamoto addressed Morrison directly. "Morrison-san, Washington-san is a valuable asset to your company. His understanding of our culture and his ability to facilitate communication is extraordinary. We are impressed not just with your technology, but with the quality of your personnel." At 12:47 p.m., a partnership agreement was signed. Morrison Industries had secured the largest deal in their company's history, and Yamamoto Corporation had found a trusted partner for their renewable energy initiatives. But the real victory was Samuel's quiet triumph over the systemic discrimination that had kept his talents hidden for 12 years. The signing of the Yamamoto Corporation Partnership Agreement marked not just a business victory, but a fundamental transformation in how Morrison Industries operated. The $2.8 billion deal secured the company's future, but more importantly, it forced a reckoning with the talent that had been systematically overlooked within their own walls. Richard Morrison's first act after the Japanese delegation left was to offer Samuel a position as Director of International Business Development. The offer came with a salary that was nearly 4 times what Samuel had been earning as a janitor, along with comprehensive benefits and the respect that his expertise had always deserved. But Samuel's response surprised everyone. "Mr. Morrison, I appreciate the offer, but I need to understand something first. Are you offering me this position because you finally recognize my qualifications, or because you feel guilty about overlooking me for 12 years?" Morrison's answer was honest and revealing. "Both, Samuel. I'm ashamed that we never saw your potential, and I'm grateful that you saved our company despite how we treated you. But more than that, I'm offering you this position because you're clearly the most qualified person for the job." Samuel accepted the position, but with conditions. He requested authority to implement cultural sensitivity training for all executives, to establish mentorship programs for underrepresented employees, and to create pathways for recognizing hidden talent throughout the company. His demands reflected a deep understanding that his situation was not unique. There were likely other employees whose potential was being wasted due to systemic biases. The transformation of Samuel's role had profound effects throughout Morrison Industries. Employees who had barely acknowledged him for 12 years suddenly wanted to learn from him. The company's approach to international business became more sophisticated and culturally sensitive. Most importantly, the organization began to recognize that talent and expertise don't always come in the packages that people expect. Samuel's story also had a broader impact on the corporate world. News of the janitor who saved the $1 billion Deals spread throughout business circles, sparking conversations about hidden talent and systematic discrimination. HR departments began implementing programs to identify and develop employees regardless of their current positions. Companies started recognizing that their most valuable assets might be hiding in plain sight. The personal impact on Samuel was equally significant. After 12 years of being invisible, he finally had the opportunity to use his full range of skills and knowledge. He thrived in his new role, helping Morrison Industries expand into Asian markets and building relationships with international partners. His success validated not just his own worth, but the potential of countless other workers whose talents remain unrecognized. Samuel's family was transformed by the change. His children, who had always been proud of their father's work ethic, now saw him recognized for his intellectual capabilities. His wife Maria, who had supported him through years of underemployment, watched him finally receive the respect and compensation his skills deserved. The relationship between Samuel and Morrison Industries evolved into something deeper than a typical employee-employer dynamic. Samuel became a trusted advisor, helping the company navigate not just international business, but the broader challenges of creating an inclusive workplace. His perspective, shaped by years of observation and experience, provided insights that no consultant could have offered. The partnership with Yamamoto Corporation flourished under Samuel's guidance. His deep understanding of Japanese business culture helped both companies navigate challenges and build a relationship based on mutual respect and shared values. The renewable energy technology that emerged from their collaboration has since become a model for sustainable business practices worldwide. Samuel's story also became a powerful tool for education and advocacy. He began speaking at business schools and corporate conferences, sharing his experience to help others recognize the hidden talent in their own organizations. His message was clear: talent exists everywhere, but it takes intentional effort to recognize and develop it. The broader implications of Samuel's story extend far beyond Morrison Industries. Research shows that companies with diverse leadership teams and inclusive cultures significantly outperform their competitors. Samuel's success demonstrated that recognizing hidden talent isn't just a moral imperative, it's a business necessity. 5 years after that pivotal meeting, Samuel Washington serves as Morrison Industries' Senior Vice President of Global Operations. The company has expanded into 12 new international markets, largely due to his expertise and cultural knowledge. The partnership with Yamamoto Corporation has generated over $5 billion in revenue and has been recognized as a model for international business cooperation. But perhaps the most significant outcome of Samuel's story is the cultural shift it inspired. Morrison Industries now actively seeks to identify and develop talent at every level of the organization. The company has implemented mentorship programs, eliminated unnecessary degree requirements for certain positions, and created pathways for advancement based on skill and potential rather than traditional credentials. Samuel Washington's journey from invisible janitor to executive leader represents more than an individual success story. It's a powerful indictment of the systemic biases that plague American workplaces and a roadmap for creating more inclusive organizations. His story forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about how we value human potential and the talent we waste through prejudice and narrow thinking. The lessons from Samuel's experience are both profound and practical. First, we must recognize that talent and expertise don't always conform to our expectations or biases. The most qualified person for a job might be the one we least expect, and our assumptions about race, class, and social position can blind us to extraordinary capabilities. Second, the cost of discrimination extends far beyond individual injustice. It represents a massive waste of human capital that damages organizations and society as a whole. Samuel's story also demonstrates the resilience and dignity of those who face systemic discrimination. His ability to maintain his skills and knowledge, despite years of undervaluation, reflects the strength of countless workers who persist in the face of prejudice. His decision to help Morrison Industries, despite how he had been treated, shows the character and professionalism that discrimination often seeks to deny. The transformation of Morrison Industries under Samuel's leadership proves that inclusion isn't just morally right, it's economically smart. Companies that recognize and develop diverse talent consistently outperform those that don't. Samuel's expertise didn't just save one deal. It fundamentally changed how the company approached international business and created billions in value. As we move forward, Samuel's story challenges us to look beyond surface appearances and recognize the hidden talents in our own organizations and communities. How many other Samuel Washingtons are there, cleaning our offices, serving our food, or working in positions that don't reflect their true capabilities? How much potential are we wasting through our biases and assumptions? The choice is ours. We can continue to overlook talent based on prejudice, or we can create systems that recognize and develop human potential wherever it exists. Samuel Washington showed us what's possible when we choose to see beyond our biases. The question now is whether we have the courage to follow his example.